So earlier in the show, we looked at Trent Richardson as the number 3 bust. Now, we don't have to go too deep into it because we've beaten up on the Browns enough over the course of the countdown.
It's not our fault.
It can't say they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
But despite Richardson's struggles in the NFL, teams did not stop picking running backs in the top 5. So since Richardson's 2012 draft, Ezekiel Elliott in 2016, Leonard Fournette 2017, Saquon Barkley 2018 were all top 5 picks. Now, those are big names, right? But were they worth being drafted that high? Like, what do we think here, Pearce?
I don't think they're worth being drafted out. It's not their fault. It's not necessarily that they're busts. It's just that the league has changed so much in the last 20 years. It's a passing league. They've changed the rules, pass interference. You get away with basically everything for a receiver. You can't touch the receivers. It's a passing league. And so it really doesn't make any sense to pay up for a running back when they have minimal value. It's really just our own expectations. We still see the NFL the way it used to be, where running backs in the 90s carried the league. It's not the case anymore, and yet we still hold these running backs at standard, and so we consider them busts. If we really want to look at busts, then you got to go back to the 90s when you actually could run the ball. You look at like guys out of Penn State like Kajana Carter and Curtis Enos. That was a running era, and those guys couldn't get the job done. Lawrence Phillips, Tim Bianca-Batuka, they were all drafted ahead of Eddie George. Those guys are real busts. The guys in this era, I don't give them that much of a hard time. I don't even give Trent Richardson that much of a hard time. It's a passing league.
Geoff, what do we think?
Trent Richardson was pretty bad, but Pearce does actually make a good point. These running backs aren't bad running backs. We saw Leonard Fournette just kind of carry the Tampa Bay offense to a Super Bowl. They're capable. It's just the bust is the team. It's the general manager is the bust because he's taking these running backs in places where nobody should be taking running backs because, as Pearce alluded to, it's a passing league now. Why on earth would you take some of these guys like before Patrick Mahomes even considering a running back? You should be loading up at quarterback, even if you already have an established one, because they're cheap. You can get upside. You could then trade your veteran for draft picks. Teams just don't think like that. The bust is at the GM position because you should never be taking a running back that high ever in today's league. And I think teams maybe slowly have figured it out, but you don't have to go back very far. I mean, 2018 Saquon Barkley, just looking at some of the names that have gone after him, Josh Allen, Minka Fitzpatrick even, just like a great defensive player, Derwin James, there's just so many names that are better and better assets for NFL teams than Saquon Barkley.